What's up, people? This video is about the Hinderer knives Eklipse Skinny Slicer Hollow. That's a mouthful. So skinny meaning it's the thinner construction and the thinner blade stock, and the hollow slicer. I think all slicer grinds are now hollow grinds. By the way, speaking of hollow grinds, the hollow on this Eklipse, as on any Hinderer, is pretty shallow. I'm not sure if you can see. Can you see that? There is barely any light coming through here. So it's not a deep hollow. I would argue that it's almost offensive to call this a hollow grind. This is barely a hollow grind. This is almost a flat ground blade. But that being said, I think Hinderer has improved quite a bit with blade behind the edge thickness and slicing capabilities. Most Hinderers, in my experience, are not the greatest slicing tools or cutting tools in general. And we'll get to that, I guess. So this one came in at about 0.4 to 0.44 millimeters behind the edge, which is like 15 to 17 thousandths. Not bad, really not bad for a Hinderer. However, I don't think this is achieved if you do not get the skinny version, because the skinny has a 3.5 millimeter blade stock thickness. Is that right? Yeah, somewhere in between a 3.2 to 3.5 millimeter blade stock thickness. It's still pretty thick. The blade is not a thin blade. It is relatively robust back here, and then it tapers beautifully towards the tip. So you get a nice precise tip. Yeah, but if you are into Hinderers, you already know that these are not lasers. They don't pass through material with ease. They are built more for robustness, and I think the biggest advantage of a Hinderer knife is the build quality, the high build quality. And the build quality on this one is perfect. Hinderer knives are very well made. Let's get out my 3-inch XM18. I sold the 3.5-inch XM18 that was also in MagnaCut because the MagnaCut was really bad. This one is also MagnaCut, but apparently they changed some of their heat treatment protocol, because this MagnaCut is way better. My first one, I don't even think had like a good proper heat treatment on there, because it was not able to take an edge at all. This one is nice. It cuts well. I have no idea which HRC it is. I don't know how high in hardness they go. MagnaCut should be, I think, 63, 64 HRC. I'm not sure if this one is that high, but it is at least a heat treatment now that is decent. The old XM18 that I have here is S35VN, and that S35VN was always super soft. It does not hold an edge well. You constantly have to strop it or take care of it. The S45VN, as here on my XM24, was way better heat treated. Like, steel choice is very important with knives, right? And I don't think Hinderer makes the best choices when it comes to steels. Like, if you look at these knives, these are tough knives. These are very robust knives with thick blade stock thickness, and a thumb stud that locks up from the outside, serves as like a stop pin. It's very robust. It has no side-to-side blade play. These are built very well, and they are clearly made for toughness. But S45VN is not a steel that I would choose for toughness. And choosing S35VN and then going super low in hardness is also not the right way to go. Their 20CV was also pretty soft in my experience. I had an Eklipse before in 20CV. Not my favorite steel for this type of knife, right? What would be a great steel choice for this type of knife? I don't know, maybe like CPM 3B? Something tough, or maybe if you want to go in the stainless direction, something like a Nitro B or Nitro V, something with a fine grain structure, something that can take the abuse, because if they would do so, they could grind their knives thinner, and they would not have to be this thick behind the edge. This 24 is also a hollow slicer, by the way, and it is also barely, I mean, this is, on camera this looks like a flat ground blade. This is not really a hollow ground blade in the traditional sense. So if we take out the Chris Reeve Sebenza and look at the hollow, I mean, you can just see there is like, this is a hollow grind, right? And these two are barely hollowed. These are almost flat ground blades. So yeah, hit and miss, I guess. I really like that Hinderer has finally made some models that are thinner behind the edge, that are better heat treated than before. I think they have improved overall. So here is the Sebenza size comparison. It's basically the size of the Sebenza. I think the Sebenza has more cutting edge, or maybe a little bit. Yeah, but the Eklipse has more belly, so it's about the same cutting edge. Ergonomics. The Eklipse is, I think, a little bit better to hold than the 24, because the 24, excuse me, the XM18, but it's basically the same design than the 24. You have this big drop off here in the back, and you have a choil in the front, and these choils, for my personal liking, they're always a little bit too small, so you end up cutting yourself just a little bit because you run into the cutting edge. Obviously on the larger models you have a bigger choil, so but you need a 24 in order to get like a proper choil that you can actually hold without touching the cutting edge. On the 18 3.5 inch, that's the same thing. But I never liked that drop in the end. It puts you in a saber grip and it feels uncomfortable in the hammer grip. Only in the choil you can hold it in the hammer grip, whereas on the Eklipse I think the hammer grip feels a little bit better. You don't have a front finger choil. You can kind of choke up here like a little bit, but it's like not ideal to do so. So yeah, personally I like the straighter handle designs better than the ones that curve very far down, right? Because they are more natural to hold, I think. Yeah, the Eklipse, I like it better in terms of ergonomics. I don't like a front finger choil anyway, so you don't need it. I will say though, the Eklipse has still a pretty big choil, a sharpening choil, that is not ideal when passing through cardboard, because cardboard will get stuck in there eventually. So you have to be very aware while cutting how you move the cutting edge to not get stuck. The stonewash finish, both on the blade and on the handle, is my favorite type of Hinderer finish. It just looks raw and like a tool, right? You can see how beautiful the stonewash is, right? And I don't think I need a working finish in my life personally. So I go for the stonewash, and I like the lock side also with that plain look. I inserted one of these Hinderer inserts. These are not original Hinderers, but because they are super expensive. So I got like I think I got this for a trade. It's a koi. I like it. It looks good. I like the G10 that they do. I think the multicolor G10 looks fantastic. Gives it a little bit more of an interesting look. Yeah. How's the action, by the way? So this is the tri-way. So you do have bearings from factory, and then you get nylon and washer actions. I think the bearing action was very, very good. Nice positive detent, not too soft, not too hard. Worked really well. I like the bearing action that they have. The nylon action, I had a little bit of an issue with the blade centering. So when I inserted the nylon washers, I could never get the blade to be centered. I tried many different things, could never do it. The action was good though. It needed more break-in period than the washer, than the bearings, but it was a good positive action, and it gave you that peace of mind that you can go into like dusty and then dirty situations without worrying about like the toughness of the knife. Yeah. So Yeah, I like the nylons, but I could never get it to centered. I just put in the phosphor bronze washers because I wanted to see if I had the same centering issue, and I don't have that issue anymore. So I only had that with the nylon washers. I don't know what it is about. I tried many adjustments, so loosening the screws and the pivot and pushing the blade over, all the different tricks you can do to get a blade centered. Could never do it. So washer action works very, very well, and it is centered. I just put these in, so these need a little bit more break-in period. Still a nice and positive action. Sometimes I fail it because it's just brand new in there. By the way, speaking of disassembling it and try-away and everything, you need a couple of tools, I guess, to disassemble these. On the Eklipse, these are T6s, not my favorite screws. I don't have an issue with the screws on here. I think the screws are very, very, very well made. But the T6 Torx that you can buy, they usually wear out very, very quickly. So make sure to get a higher quality one, like a Hinderer or something, because a damaged Torx will obviously damage your screws. So the screws, they work very well. It's just not my favorite size. And then you also need a spanner bit for the pivot, because you basically need the flat and the spanner, because you will not be able to take it apart without these two. It's just not possible. I basically built my own Hinderer toolkit, I guess, that has everything in there that you need, and it works very well like that. So I think Boker has a Hinderer collaboration with their own Torx set, and I think it's a little bit overpriced and you don't get every Torx in there you want. So I basically bought these off Amazon and put my own bits in there, and now I have like a dedicated Hinderer Torx set. So yeah, it is a pretty good knife. I think the clip tension is slightly too loose, so this slides in and out of the pocket a little bit too easy. I wish it would hold in there a little bit better. That's about my only complaint about this. The grind geometry is good, the MacLeod is finally good, the action is very good, works very well. The tri-bit pivot system is obviously a huge invention in the knife industry. And I think still the best thing about Hinderer knives is their build quality. The build quality is better than their cutting performance, even though on this particular model the cutting performance is not bad. And I think they get better and better each year with their cutting performance and with the heat treatment. It is a good knife for sure, but the question remains, is it the perfect Hinderer knife? Now, here is kind of the struggle that I have with Hinderer knives. This one carries a lot better and cuts a lot better than other Hinderer knives, by far. But it's not cutting on the same level as, like, let's say a Spyderco that is decently thin behind the edge. So the question remains, should you not just go with a regular Hinderer that's a little bit thicker on the spine and a little bit tougher, because these knives are built for toughness. Probably the best Hinderer would be like the thicker ones, not the super thick ones, but at least the ones that have a little bit more blade stock thickness and more robustness on the tip, because with the external thumb studs you can really work this knife a little bit harder side to side without getting blade play, because this is a very blade play resistant knife. So you cannot really take advantage of this here, right? The toughness is not really a thing, even though this has a 3.5mm blade stock thickness. The tip is slightly too thin. So I guess that's the issue that I have with Hinderers. I can never find the perfect one. And also one more thing, I think the XM18 3-inch is slightly too small and does not offer the cutting performance that you want in a small knife. The XM24 is slightly oversized, a little bit too big, for most people. It's even too big for me, and I like bigger knives, but it's so thick that it is just not that easy to carry. And I guess the Eklipse and the 3.5 inch XM18 would be right in the middle and would be perfect, like a jack of all trades. The question remains, are you gonna go with the skinny one or not? So that's it for this video, I guess. Maybe we see each other in another video. Goodbye.